All right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are live. This is my first ever live stream. I probably should have tested this, huh? I should have done I should have done an experiment beforehand to make sure this works. But welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. This was a live stream I was looking forward to for a while now because I had found out about this next generation MacBook Pro not just getting an improved webcam, but also getting improved studio quality microphones. So, notch to meet you, Lord Hakiji. I'm inside the notch right now. I think this is I'm not sure if I've done that many live streams from the front-facing camera on my iPhone, but this has got to be historic. This is one of the first ever Tailosive Tech live streams from a notch. Which is kind of mind-boggling. Hey, Alexander Ernst, thank you for your continued support as a member. Appreciate that greatly. Looks and sounds great. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up. That's the point I was going to get to, actually, is that this live stream is being done entirely off the MacBook Pro. I mean, granted, we're still on Starlink, although it might be a tad laggier today, only because my last Tailosive Tech YouTube stream, we had 0 frame drops for over 90 minutes. There was not a single hiccup with the bandwidth. So I was like, okay, if that's the case, I want to try upping the bit rate a little bit. So I upped the frame rate to this stream to 60 frames a second, and I've upped the kilobits per second to 3,000. It's normally 2,000. But that does typically mean that if Starlink, its connection is volatile. So if it starts to dip below, wow, Marngel, thank you for your continued support. He says camera looks pretty good and the mics sound good. Yeah, this is that's the point I was trying to get to. These are the onboard microphones. I'm not using this mic, which I normally use. It's not doing anything. So this is just using the onboard microphones. I have to put the MacBook on a box though. This is obviously not the optimum viewing perspective, because typically my Mac, well, I'm trying to make it more optimum. As much as I am sick and tired of my iMac Pro because it has stupid Intel processors in it, I will agree that it's kind of nice to have the webcam up high, whereas when the MacBook Pro is sitting down on my desk, it's a bit harder to reach. It doesn't look as nice. I have massive nostrils. I don't know if you guys know that, but my massive nostrils are very obvious whenever I put the MacBook down. I'm putting it on a box, basically. Actually, my Sharps container. Basically, I have to take several needle injections, like Doc Ock every single month, so that I don't have a psoriasis side effects anymore. That's why Drew doesn't have a notch anymore. Jarrett Tilford, thank you for the super chat. He said, keep it up, happy to be here. Thank you, Jarrett. That was super nice of you. Alexander Ernst says, the mic sounds amazing. By the way, how has the performance/battery life been? Thank you, Alexander, for that super chat. So, I haven't had, I guess, a ton of prolonged experience with the battery tests. I've mostly been doing export tests, but I think that says a lot about how good the battery life is in these MacBooks, because frankly, I haven't noticed. Thank you, Alpha, for your continued support. Top-notch product. I can hardly wait to buy this. Yeah, I'm loving it so far. I'm just having the time of my life reviewing this thing. I can't wait to get to work every day because there's some other thing I want to try out. And this morning was certainly one I wanted to try out for a while, because basically when I first unboxed the MacBook Pro, I edited the unboxing video and it exported extremely fast. I was pretty confident it was going to be faster than the Intel iMac Pro, although I'll admit there was a little thought in the back of my brain. I was like, imagine if you blow all this money on a MacBook and it's still not as fast. I'm going to be so mad. But that was, I understood, I took that as a very unlikely scenario. I was pretty dang confident this will be faster than my iMac Pro, but I was not expecting it to be this much faster. I was not expecting to be able to export a 1080p video in a minute. Or export a 90-minute podcast in 2 minutes, or export a 13-minute 4K at 60 video in under 9 minutes. I was not anticipating it to just completely blow the iMac Pro out of the water. I was just hoping for better, right? I assumed this would beat it in speed tests. I wasn't expecting it to be less than half the time though. But the first thing I did after I exported the first video was I opened OBS and I did a recording, because I was I heard about these new microphones sounding much better. So let me try them out. Let's hear what the mics sound like. And Oh my god, they sounded fantastic. So I don't know if it's coming over via the live stream, if you guys can pick it up at all, but I did several side-by-sides because I've also been testing AirPods 3, which has been a ton of fun. And I compared the sound. Oh, Brain Freak, thank you for the super chat. He just said hello. Welcome to the stream. I basically did a side-by-side comparison with AirPods 3, listening to the audio from this microphone and then listening to the onboard microphones on the MacBook Pro, and I was like, it's pretty dang close. I mean, I think the MacBook Pro captures a bit more of the surrounding volume. It sounded like, I don't know if you pick it up in the live stream, but to me it sounded like slightly more echoey. There was like a bit more reverb being captured, but it's very subtle. And I would not say it's a really big step down in audio quality from my dedicated mic, which, to be fair, I've had this same microphone since the Attic days. It's a very old mic. I bought it on Amazon for like $30, but it sounds decent. You know, I use it in all my podcasts and I use it in all my live streams, and I don't typically get that many complaints about it. Every once in a while I get an audio file that's like, no, you gotta tinker this one setting, but for the most part, with all my broadcasts and stuff, people didn't care. You could trick me into thinking you're using a professional mic right now. Really? It's that good? Great video quality. Silly question. How did you get the laptop camera so high off the desk you have at eye level? I guess I can show you. I'm not plugged into power. This was another test that I was hoping to do in today's live stream. Is I started the day without any battery plugged in. So I exported a ton of videos and I got a lot of work done yesterday. And then during most of the day yesterday, I had it plugged in via the 30-watt USB-C brick, which it still charges off, by the way, even when you're exporting stuff. And I put it... Oh, what was I gonna say? Sorry. I disconnected it at the very end of the day. So basically, I closed the MacBook when I was done working. It was at 100% charged, and I left it unplugged for the night. And I came back in here the next morning, and it's still at 100%. So of course, great standby time. Didn't even drop 1% overnight. Granted, it wasn't doing much, I'm sure, in the background, but that's to be expected. I did some light work on it this morning because I opened up OBS and left that running for a while to just get a look at how the lighting looks and the angle and everything. So I left the MacBook. I've left the MacBook unplugged since last night, and currently we're at 92%. And we've been live streaming for a while, and of course I have Twitter open, I have browsers open, I have all this stuff. Oh man, you're gonna try to make me pronounce that? Simpaiwi? I hope I got that right, but thank you. Thank you for your support. I really, really do appreciate it. That means a lot to me, so thank you. I'm not even gonna attempt that last name. Let me try. Mr. Nish... I said I'm not gonna attempt it. Now I'm gonna try to attempt it. Nishdalinshali? Hopefully I got that right. Sound level is too low. That's funny because I'm peaking in OBS. Like I'm getting close to the red level, which you're not supposed to. So I guess turn it up, Evan. The mic is perfect. You don't need the Amazon one anymore. Good. That's what I wanted to hear because that means easier to travel. Nick and Randy might roll their eyes if they find out I don't want to use my dedicated mic anymore because they're like, oh boy, now we got to listen to these microphones. Hendrix says, audio is not bad, but surely not quite pro level. Okay. Can you try out portrait mode on Monterey? I heard it's pretty good. Portrait mode. I don't think I can do that through OBS that I'm aware of. Do you guys know of a way to do that? Video effects off. Oh, wait, maybe I can. Does it work? Whoa! Oh my god, it's in Control Center. You're discovering this live, by the way. I had no clue I could do this. This is such a tiny feature, I know, but I had no clue you could turn this on through OBS. That's so cool. Wow. Well, it does a pretty good job masking. It's a little off, but for the most part, it works pretty nice. I kind of dig this look. Looks kind of cinematic, huh? I thought for a second, I was like, isn't that only in FaceTime? And then I went up to Control Center and it said video effects off. So I hit video effects and portrait was an option. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Oh my God, I love this. That's dope. I wonder if that's a Monterey feature. Like, could I have done that on my iMac Pro? You should record a whole video on the MacBook. That would be kind of funny. That looks amazing. That's so cool. You guys are watching my reaction to this live. I did not know that it supported. What does it do with my hand? It's pretty good. It's masking these objects out fairly well. What about like a phone? Yeah, not so much. Yeah, it's kind of getting it. It's actually better at my hands than a solid object. This is kind of cool because if I like accidentally had some like personal information on my phone and I held it up, it would. Oh, that's weird. It keeps the like lock screen in focus, but not the back. Never mind. Okay, I guess it wouldn't blur out private info, but that's kind of cool. I love this look. We're basically live streaming in cinematic mode. There are not any other video effects, unfortunately. I'm checking Control Center right now, and Portrait's the only one. So if the MacBook had center stage, that's likely where I would turn it on. But yes, I can now support background blur on my live streams. This is so cool. I didn't even think about that until you guys brought it up. It's a feature on only Apple ARM. I'm happy to. I'm the one to tell you about it. Thank you, Tech United. Shout out to Tech United for making my live streams look so much more cinematic. Sometimes it catches a little bit of the chair as I'm moving. You see, it doesn't blur it out right away, but I can see the screen well. I still can see the screen well. Good. I like your sound and webcam. Thank you, Chris. Only Apple Silicon Macs support portrait mode. Okay, gotcha. So my iMac Pro would not have this. You can do the portrait mode thing on older iPhones as well. Yeah, I've heard portrait mode is not the same as cinematic mode. Cinematic mode is going for like the portrait photo effect where it blurs certain objects further away more so, which more emulates what a traditional camera does, whereas portrait mode via FaceTime, it does not capture depth data. It's mainly just doing like AI tracking, basically. It's like looking at your face and blurring everything around it and using a bit of computational performance to mask out my shoulders and my hands. It can detect that these are a person versus the background, which is not. Yeah, this is my new daily driver Mac. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted my live stream setup to be yesterday, so I did 2 live streams yesterday, both of which were on the iMac Pro because I was just so busy with all these different projects and I didn't really have time to mess around with the lighting and the setup. But, oh yeah, there was a question I avoided earlier. People are like, how are you getting this angle with the MacBook Pro? It's because it's on a box. Let me make sure I don't dox myself here. But I'm not connected to power, which means for the first time ever... Okay, I would have doxed myself. There we go. This box I put it on has my personal info on it, but we can actually move around now. Let me rotate this box as to not dox myself. My desk is a mess right now, so I apologize in advance, but, oh, I guess I have it blurred. One sec. If I go to Control Center, I can turn off portrait mode. Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, basically, iMac Pro, the iPad is there, and I'm putting it on this box on the side, so that the MacBook can be up higher. But yeah, we could make this just like a Tailosive Tech YouTube video. I can back up here and make this my background. Hey everyone, I could sit somewhere else. We're breaking the fourth wall, exactly. Why didn't they bring center stage to the MacBook Pros? I don't know. That's a good question because I feel like I'm surprised we haven't dropped any frames yet, even though the kilobit rating is pretty high. I hope I still sound okay. I'm like holding the MacBook with my hands. I don't know if that's making a bunch of noise. They added center stage to the cheapest iPad, which is $300. So I imagine the component that allows for an ultra wide, it's not 4K for the record. You don't need a 4K sensor to do center stage. As far as we can tell with the new iPad mini and the budget iPad, all Apple needs for center stage is a ultra wide, like 122 degree lens, which can't be too expensive if they're willing to put it on the budget. If they're willing to put it on the budget iPad, so my prediction is, unlike other decisions where it's like Apple could do this, but they don't for financial reasons, or they do it to create a differentiating feature between a mid-range product and a pro-level product. My theory is that it's a actual technical limitation. It's not like a business decision to leave out center stage on the MacBook Pro. It's that I don't know. I haven't done a teardown or anything on this. I haven't checked it out. But my theory is that the um, ultra wide lens needs a certain amount of thickness that the display lids on the new MacBooks don't have. They're about 4 millimeters thin, which is thinnest than the thinnest iPad. Um, so the fact that they stuffed center stage into the cheap iPad, which is thicker, doesn't shock me. That means it's not an expensive component. It's not a feature they view as a pro thing. So there's no reason to leave it out on the MacBook Pros other than there was no way to fit it in. So that's my theory, is that they could have tried to do center stage, but they couldn't get the camera stuffed in the display lid. As much as fun as I was having there, it's probably more comfortable for me to just sit down. Yeah, I'm using OBS to stream still. How do you handle audio? I show you. Oh, Mac OS Hyena. Interesting name. Thank you for your membership. Appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. I don't think I use I show you. I'm pretty much I just go into settings and I selected the default, which is the built-in microphone, and that's what we're using. So maybe on center stage a new iMac. Yeah, that's something I don't understand. Like, I could understand maybe the ultra-wide lens in the iPad being too thick and they can't fit that into the extremely thin display lids on the MacBook Pros. But why didn't they put center stage on the 24-inch iMac? Like, I don't get it. Like, there's no explanation. Like, the primary reason they put center stage on iPads is because the displays are bigger than iPhones and people use them for FaceTiming a lot. So because the display is big, you can, like, walk around and still see the person you're talking to, and the camera can track with them. But you could make that same exact argument with the 24-inch iMac. Like, you could do that exact same thing of, like, okay, it's a big screen, so you FaceTime with it, and oftentimes you're FaceTiming further away from it, especially as Apple is pitching the iMac as, like, you know, the kitchen computer. It hangs out in the living space, and it blends in with the bedroom, and it fits in with the home Mac. And if that's the case, then why not give it center stage if it's not an expensive part? You know, if you're willing to put it on $300 device, why not a $1,500 device? I don't get it. Does the added weight and thickness bother you yet? Not really, because I didn't have a MacBook before this, so I'm not really accustomed to MacBooks being a certain weight. It's just kind of the weight of the new MacBook. But my friend came over yesterday and checked it out, and he was like, "Oh, this kind of reminds me of my MacBook," because he has like a 2008 one. He's like, they went chonk with it. They went thick, and he liked it. We were playing some red footage files. He brought it over on one of my CFast cards, and I just wanted to see how well the MacBook can play red footage. It did pretty good. I think it was objectively better than my iMac Pro, but I'm not sure if the red, I could be running this in emulation. The red player I downloaded, I'm not sure if it's optimized for Apple Silicon, but I wasn't able to play the full 6K file back in real time. Most computers can't, for the record, because that's a lot of data. Red files are extremely, you know, it's the lossless of video, like true lossless. Like, every ISO setting, every pixel is preserved, like, very high file size. And I played it back, and it was trying to do the full thing at 6K, but it was lagging a bit. And I was like, that's weird, because I really would have thought the 32-core GPU would have been able to handle that. So I'm not sure if it's a software optimization problem or even the M1 Max isn't good enough. Not that that's a use case I run into a lot. It's like the MacBook display is not even 4K, so why does it matter if it can play back at 6K? Let's see. Oh, Scott says, it feels solid. I love the feel of the rounded lid. It's not sharp and jabby like the old lids. Yeah. I like the rounded feeling. Margel says, I remember when you made a joke about recording your Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro review with the Mac webcam. You can technically do that now with your new MacBook Pro, and the quality wouldn't be garbage. I think it would be very noticeable. People can tell the difference between a webcam and a real camera pretty well, but what's the weight compared to Louise's MacBook Pro? You know, given we hardly ever use that thing, I don't know. And it's in her office right now, so I'm not gonna get it. But I need to compare. Whoa! Where's Bridgen? Thank you for the super chat. Just traded in and upgraded from a spec'd out 2020 Intel MacBook Pro to a 512 gig M1 MacBook Air, and it's so much better. Thanks for assuring us that M1 is no joke. You're welcome. Yeah, I think for the vast majority of people, M1 is still plenty. M1 Pro and M1 Max are for people who, in my opinion, have tried the M1 and discovered it is definitely not enough. Do you think Johnny Ive was involved in this project? I kind of doubt it, to be honest. He's left a while ago. Um, I want your channel to grow, but I do enjoy it being smaller, feels closer, especially with live vids like this. I like that feeling too, you know, but don't worry about the channel growing too fast, because that's not happening. What MacBook does she have? She has like a 2008 MacBook Pro. It's very old and very slow, but it still kind of works. Um, Let me make sure I read everything. Imagine if Apple made an iPad floor circular remover thing to enhance center stage. Works hand in hand with the person moving, but in ridiculous angles. What do you mean, floor circular remover? You mean like it pivots on like a motor? I guess I can add center stage to this MacBook. Guys, look. Whoa, it tracks with me. Oh, that's amazing. I love center stage. All right, even if I jump up higher, wow, center stage works on the new MacBook. It's a little bit harder, but you can still do it. What are you doing with the iMac Pro? I haven't figured that out quite yet. My voice was cracking there, but I carried all the way through it just so it sounded intentional, and then I drew attention to it so it was meaningless. Welcome to Drew's Brain, everyone. I don't know, it was kind of nice to just have a separate Mac. Like, I'll admit, I finished editing the tech video, and then I had to do the EV stream. Someone was asking earlier, what's the whiteboard behind me? That's the Tesla fund for the patrons over on Tailosive EV. But it was kind of nice that as soon as I finished editing a tech video, I just hit export, and then I could leave the MacBook exporting and then go back to the iMac Pro to live stream. So there was like two Macs doing separate tasks, and they were both open. Like the export on the Final Cut was not being slowed down because I wasn't live streaming from the MacBook, and OBS wasn't struggling because the iMac Pro was just doing live streaming and nothing else. So that was kind of nice. But yes, I see all your comments, Daniel. I know the 120 hertz is not working on Safari. I'm sorry no one else in the YouTube space has brought that up. That is frustrating, although I'm not drawing a ton of attention to it because I just feel like that's such a clearly obvious thing that's going to get fixed in a patch later. Like, I guess the other reason I don't care so much is I actually don't use Safari a ton. I mean, I use it for uploading videos and stuff, but most of the time I'm using Twitter, Discord, Final Cut, all of which support 120 hertz, or iMessage on my Mac, or Notes. You know, I'm using a ton of apps, but all the apps that I'm using support ProMotion, as far as I'm aware. Maybe my eyes aren't picking it up as much as they should, but I mostly notice it just from the mouse, just moving around, being buttery smooth, and moving. Whenever I minimize windows or open windows, I can tell it's really smooth. But yes, I do hope they update the Safari app so that it actually supports 120. It's kind of hard to tell. Seems pretty smooth to me. I'm scrolling on it right now. Although I just did a software update last night. They just sent out a patch to Monterey. It was kind of buggy at first, I'll be honest. I haven't tested it recently, but I opened Final Cut and I was messing around with some of the title generators because I heard about this like tracking title where you drag the title into your timeline and you can like instantly track it to an object in the video. And as soon as I dragged the title over to Final Cut, the app instantly crashed. And I was like, okay, that's a bug. I don't think that was a RAM limitation. But where did you get your desk from? I bought a 24-inch iMac and wanted to get a nicer one for it. Do you want this one, JJ? How far away from you are you? How far away from me are you? I guess is what I was trying to ask, because I feel like this desk is too big. You know, I bought it when I had a much larger office, and now I'm working from home, which saves a crap ton of money, but this desk is, you know, I say it's too big and I would like a smaller one. However, I'm using every square inch of it right now, so I'd have to substantially get rid of some stuff. I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with the live streaming performance of the MacBook Pro right now, so I'm open to selling the iMac Pro if we can get a good price for it, but I'm not entirely convinced that we can get a good price for it. Good price is in. We're not just going to hand it out. We're not just going to give it away. I know a lot of people think that's how YouTubers work. It's like, oh, I'm done with this. I guess someone else can have it. It's like, I put $6,000 into that thing. I would like to recoup at least some of the cost, but I think trade in through Apple, they would give us like $1,900. So I'll try to see if I can get more for it. Not don't offer me $1,901. That's not what we're going for. And I don't want to sell it on eBay or anything like that because I've heard too many horror stories, and I don't even have the original box for the iMac Pro, so I would have to find a weird box to ship it in. I'd probably want to sell it local, something like that. But the basement era, I forgot about that. I've never had a basement. Do you mean the attic? Alpha says another reason why the Pixelbook sucks, 120 hertz versus 30 hertz. Or is it 24? Yeah, Pixelbook is probably closer to 24. Have you tried doing a live stream while exporting a video on the MacBook Pro yet? No, I haven't, because this was kind of risky, but this was my first live stream ever. I didn't do a live stream test before this. I literally just was like, I did a few recordings to see what the audio and video would look like. But this was the first time I hit the go live button. So you guys are witnessing the first thing. Youngmin says 2,500. That would be good. I'd sell it for 2,500. Although I struggle to find someone willing to pay that. But yeah, I'll probably either do Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that. What happened to the iMac Pro box? I thought you kept the boxes. The problem is I kept too many boxes, and back when I had a P.O. box, there were a ton of people shipping me all of their Apple boxes. So before you knew it, we had just like an entire room stacked with Apple boxes. I had way too many of them, so we had to start getting rid of some, especially when we were moving. Like, I moved out of the big office because while it was nice to have all that space, it was super duper expensive, and financially it was just dumb. Because we wanted to buy a house, which that plan has worked. We would not have been able to buy this house had I stayed in that office. But we didn't buy the house immediately after moving out of the office. I had to move into the rental house we were in temporarily for a few months, and then moving again from that house into the house we are now in, which we've paid for, which is nice, and gotten our monthly expenses way, way lower. Thanks to you guys for helping us out with that, all your super chats and support. Allows me to focus more on just creating content and not have to worry about like, oh, hope we make enough to cover rent this month. We don't need to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. But in all of those moving processes, keeping around all those big Apple boxes was getting ridiculous. So after about 2 years of holding on to the iMac Pro box, I was like, okay, I don't know where to put this, so let's just throw it out. So, well, we recycled it, to be fair, but yeah. Oh, let's see. How did you apply the crappy blur effect on YouTube? This is built into the video effects in Control Center. Whoa! Jason is a penguin. He just super chatted, can I get your best Tim Cook impression, please? So, today we are going live off of the portrait mode webcam on MacBook Pro. Apple claims it has studio quality microphones built in. So I am not using any external mic to live stream this. Oh, I got Australian there for a second. But I appreciate the super chat, Jason. Now I'd like to hand it over to Craig. There's just Craig Federighi in my room. Everyone's like, oh my God, what? So it was an office that was ground floor. Got it. The attic was second floor. It wasn't ground floor, but the big office was ground floor. Yeah. Can I have the iMac Pro? Oh my God, 2,500 for your iMac is not a lot. At least 3,700, says Johnny. Make me an offer. If we can do better than that, help offset the cost of this really expensive MacBook. My wife wants to keep our 2019 MacBook Pro, but after getting an M1, I kind of hate going back to it. Once you go Apple Silicon, you never go back. Unfortunately, I can't say the same because I did try the M1 MacBook Air. And while I really loved it and I appreciated it, it was not what I needed. And it was objectively slower than my iMac Pro at exporting. It was really good at playback and boot up times, and applications opening up was faster. But, ooh, you know something I forgot to mention that I really, really love about this MacBook Pro? Airdropping is so much faster. Oh my God. I think some of you are probably like, no, duh, Drew. Of course, we've known this for a long time. But what I wasn't quite aware of, I had a suspicion about this, but I think I've now figured it out, is that my Intel-based iMac Pro, if you airdropped a 4K at 60 video off your phone or off your iPad, by the way, the cutaway shots from yesterday's video were shot on iPad. I didn't have my phone with me, so I just opened the camera on my iPad, and it supports 4K at 60. 3 years old. That thing is amazing. Anyway, When I was airdropping videos to my iMac Pro before, it would have to convert them from an HEVC format into an MP4 format. And I think because the M1 and M1 Max chips are, of course, Apple Silicon based, they don't need to be converted. So there's a big step of the process that is skipped whenever I airdrop videos to my MacBook Pro. I actually recorded a ProRes video. I've got ProRes recording on my iPhone now, and airdropped it to my MacBook Pro, and it went pretty dang quick. So it wasn't a long video file, obviously. It's probably not as fast as importing through a CFast card, but yeah, I love the fact that as soon as I tap the MacBook Pro and AirDrop, it just instantly. Another super chat from the name I can't pronounce, but thank you. Didn't ask anything, but the flames and temperature of Intel's rage is rising by the day. My 2011 MacBook is practically a stove. Yep, pretty much. So is the copy paste from phone to Mac and Mac to phone. It's instant. No more hang and loading circle. Yes, thank you. Can confirm as an Aussie that wasn't it. That wasn't my attempt at an Australian accent. I was just slipping into Australian. My father-in-law is Australian, so I can do a pretty good one. You shoot on iPad? Occasionally. If my phone is not around and I need a quick 4K at 60 cutaway shot, I'll just grab the iPad because my iPad is usually always on my desk. But, wow. You sound more like Johnny Hive. Yeah. Do you notice a difference, the feel of typing on the new keyboard? Not really, because I'm pretty sure it's like almost the exact same keyboard. Well, I would show you the keyboard that my iMac Pro is using, but it's very dirty right now, and it looks kind of ugly. But it's pretty much the exact same keyboard, so no, I don't notice a difference. It sounds much quieter than the butterfly keys, but I haven't used the butterfly keyboard in years now. Again, I haven't owned a MacBook since the M1 MacBook Air, and I only reviewed that for a couple weeks and then returned it. And then before that, I didn't own a MacBook for another year. So I have not owned a lot of MacBooks in the past few years. So this is feeling kind of brand new. Grov says, what's your lighting setup currently? Makes understanding MacBook camera quality a bit easier. So I do have my studio light that I light my videos with turned on. Normally this is on whenever I go live from my iMac Pro as well. But from what I've noticed, you know, that something else I want to draw attention to? A lot of people were complaining beforehand whenever I was live streaming from my iMac Pro, the aperture, the exposure would be constantly changing. Do you guys remember that? It would like get darker and get brighter, get darker and brighter. Some people notice it, some people don't. I don't see it with this. I think the image signal processor on the new MacBook doesn't have that problem. Like the aperture feels consistent. It doesn't feel like it's constantly going shaking back and forth like the iMac Pro does. So even though the resolution of the webcam is the same technically, my iMac Pro had 1080p, this new MacBook has 1080p, the aperture seems to be a lot more stable. What I did notice is that the webcam is good in low light performance, but you lose a lot of that detail whenever they boost up the ISO. It's not as sharp. So like if I turn off my studio light, I get a little smoother. It's like, okay, it's fine. It gets the job done. But obviously, I think it looks better like that. So now I'm going to hear everybody say, yeah, I prefer it with the light on. What happened to the iMac Pro box? Oh, sorry, I answered that. Wasn't that in the basement? No, yeah, the office, the office with the blue walls with the poorly painted surroundings. Those were not, that was not in the basement. I guess I could tell you where it is now that I'm not there, but nah, that's okay. I don't want to dox some poor soul. I just tuned in. How did you apply the crappy oh, sorry. I read all these. I gotta scroll back to the bottom. Also, hi. How are the fans in this MacBook? That's the thing. I can't tell they're there. We've been live streaming for 34 minutes. By the way, Starlink is doing great today. I'm not on Ethernet. Again, nothing is plugged into the MacBook Pro, so I can just grab it and spin around like there's no wires or anything. What if I just did a whole live stream like this? I can't see this, nobody but you. I know the words. I could just do that all day. But Starlink has only dropped 0.1% of frames, and I'm at a higher bit rate, and I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm not on Ethernet. So whoever said Ethernet was more stable, what do y'all know? Maybe my iMac Pro just had crappy internet connectivity, and that's why we were lagging all this time. because the frame drops are so low, I might up the bitrate again. Would love to see benchmarks for the bin to M1 Max with 24 GPUs. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how the different chips perform. I've actually been trying to watch a few videos about that, but I've been busy, so I haven't had much time. But someone told me on Twitter, because I posted the video, obviously, that was like the M1 Max is insanely good, and I was talking about how much faster it is than the iMac Pro, and someone was like, I think it's only marginally better than the M1 Pro at exporting video. So I was like, really? And they sent me a link, and it was to a handbrake test, which is not the same thing as Final Cut exporting at H.264. Maybe, I mean, it's a similar concept, the idea of exporting a video, but handbrake and Final Cut are built very, very differently. And I watched someone else. Oh, crap, what is his name? I want to give him a shout out. I didn't catch the whole thing. Scott McKenna. Thank you, Scott McKenna, for doing a breakdown. But basically, he has a M1 Max and a M1 Pro MacBook, and he did a Final Cut Pro comparison. And in his export test, the M1 Pro took like almost twice as long, I want to say. I think it was. I watched it with subtitles. I didn't get to catch the whole thing. I need to go back and watch it. But basically, the M1 Max exported his video in like 2.5 minutes, and the M1 Pro exported in 4.5. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty big difference. That's not a marginal improvement. And he was using a more, applicable example, because I'm not exporting a lot of content through Handbrake. I'm exporting everything through Final Cut. So, very rare someone will buy those bin 24-core GPUs. I don't know. I think a lot of people might, because they know it's cheaper. When was Handbrake last updated? Exactly, Joshua, yeah. When was the last time Handbrake optimized their app for Apple Silicon? So someone was trying to tell me M1 Max isn't much faster, and I was like, I am pretty confident with those extra GPU cores. Not to say that M1 Pro is slow. Don't get me wrong. Uh-oh, I spoke too soon. Starlink's lagging. Come back to us, Dishy. Okay. I think it's stabilized. I do have Twitter open. Maybe that's doing something in the background. I don't know. Okay. I quit Twitter. Hopefully that fixes it. I wonder what happened to the Tailosive TV shows. Surprised there hasn't been any action from the Red yet. Be patient, Alpha. I worked on it like all day on Tuesday. I probably we've spent way too much time on this next skit. Anyway, it's all shot on Red though. Sorry. I saw the frame drops, but they stabilized. Max has twice the encoders and bandwidth, so it makes sense. Yeah, that was the point I was getting at. I was like, the M1 Max has an additional ProRes encoder and decoder, whereas the M1 Pro just has one. I think the M1 Max has two. So that is specifically utilized whenever you export a video. And the other thing I think I saw Scott McKenna bring up is that if you use high power mode. Sorry, I called it high performance mode. I just read a bunch of leaks and that's what I thought it was. But you can go into settings. This is restricted to only the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So high power mode is not a thing on the 14-inch MacBook. But on the 16-inch with the M1 Max, again, you can't have the M1 Pro. M1 Max with 16-inch, you can go into battery settings, turn on high power mode, and it will consume more energy. But he saw the video export like 5% faster, which doesn't seem like a lot. But if you're in a rush, and in the business world, a lot of the time, it's like time is money. So any second saved is a dollar earned. So I could see people utilizing that. But yeah, that's just one more advantage of M1 Max that you don't have with M1 Pro. It's a small advantage, but honestly, when I was comparing different configurations of the 16-inch MacBook Pro, you don't really save that much with M1 Pro versus M1 Max. Like, as far as I can see with the 16-inch model, it's a difference of like $400, which is, I mean, if you're dropping $2,000, I would say $400 is a lot if you're comparing like an iPad Air and an iPad Pro. That's a big difference. But if you're talking ratio-wise of like a $2,500 MacBook, the difference of $2,500 and $2,900 is, I mean, some people that might cross past their limit, but I'm not trying to act like M1 Pro is slow. Don't get me wrong. Even the binned 8-core M1 Pro is still more than enough for what most people need. I really think that content creators and the MacBook Pro lives up to the Pro suffix. You know, we complain a lot about how AirPods Pro aren't really Pro. Why do they give them the Pro name? The iPhone still has Lightning. Why do they call it the iPhone Pro? But I feel like the MacBook Pro really is for professionals, right? It's not necessarily just about watching YouTube videos, and it's a good laptop for school. I see the lag. Come on, Dishy. Find that satellite. You can do it. What games do you play on the MacBook or iMac? Pretty much none. Apple needs to work on background blur in their cameras because it's kind of iffy. It's about as good as every other background blur webcam feature as if I've ever seen one. I think it looks slightly better than the Zoom background blur or the Hangouts background blur. It's not capturing any depth data. There's no Face ID on this thing, so it's just an algorithm that's looking at a flat 1080p image and then guessing, okay, that's a face, that's his body, mask that out. So it's not the same as cinematic mode. Do you still kind of regret getting the M1 Max based on what you said in the podcast with Randy? Less and less based on what I've read. I mean, I'm always open to save money when possible. You know, like I did briefly open Minecraft the other day, but I can't. It's the Java edition, and I don't think that's optimized for Apple Silicon, so I wasn't terribly impressed with the performance. I mean, it was good, but it was like, okay, whatever. Our Macs have never been good for gaming, and it's never been a hardware problem. But it's once again, it's like, yeah, I'm sure the M1 Max chip could run games great if people actually built their games for metal optimization. But anyway, I do have wired internet options, but I'm not seeing substantially worse bandwidth. We lost a few frames over the iMac Pro at 3,000 kilobits per second yesterday, and that's over Ethernet. But we lost more frames on Ethernet than we have on Wi-Fi. To be fair. Sorry, what was I gonna say? I'm answering so many different things right now. Oh, do I regret getting the M1 Max? Not really, because based on the Final Cut comparison export tests, because most of my videos are all shot in ProRes, and that's what the M1 Max is kind of optimized for in video timelines, it seems that it's pretty substantially faster at exporting videos than the M1 Pro. And the other thing, even if it wasn't substantially faster, even if it was only like 10% faster at exporting videos, the 6% cash back thing kind of defeats the purpose of downgrading. Because we talked about it for a little while, you know. We got really excited when so many people signed up to be YouTube members and super chatted, and we were like, oh yeah, the sky's the limit. We're just gonna buy a maxed out MacBook, woohoo! But then we got the charge for it on our card, and we were like, oh my god, we put all this money into something less than £5. So now we're in the babying phase. Like, my wife is like, be careful with it, and don't leave it too close to the edge, and like, don't be really, really careful. She gets nervous every time I pick it up and take it somewhere. So I probably shouldn't be running around with it while I'm live streaming. But basically, we're in the phase of like, we're not throwing it around like I throw around my phone. That's only $1,000. Who cares about that? I'll chuck it out the window. But no, like with the iPad, she's like, you cannot eat at your desk anymore. Like before, during our lunch, I would just bring in a plate with a sandwich on it, and I would be using my iMac watching videos, and I just eat the sandwich and keep. Now she's like, you cannot do that. You eat in the kitchen. No food comes in here. We don't want any crumbs or anything collecting, and you have to wipe down surfaces before we put the MacBook on a table and stuff. So we're being extra careful with it, and it's kind of making her nervous just because it's a very, very expensive laptop, by far the most expensive laptop I've ever bought, and the most expensive item, basically, we've ever paid for, if you don't count the cashback. If you count the cashback, it was a bug, yes. It was not intentional, but Apple has decided to honor the 6% cashback. So if anybody saw 6% cashback in the Wallet app, Apple honored that, which basically meant we got like $330 in cash back through this MacBook. And because that Apple Card 6% thing was a bug, if I return this MacBook and buy a new one, I won't get 6% back on that new one. So I'm having to compare the total cost of this MacBook with the 6% cash back, which was $5,750 is a pretty round number, $5,750. Then I'm like, okay, let me switch my configuration to M1 Pro. How much money would I save? It's like $200. I think it's less, actually. So there's really not much savings by going with M1 Pro over M1 Max. It's not a tremendous amount of discount, you know. The one thing that we were still unsure about is whether or not we wanted to opt for 4 terabytes of storage. Because, you know, I got a ton of people telling me I was a moron and I was crazy for buying 8 terabytes. That's where you can save a ton of money. If I downgrade to 4 terabytes, I can save like $1,000, but I'm just going to run out of storage sooner, and then I have to come up with some other solution. So I'm not really sure if I want to downgrade to 4 terabytes because we're filming a lot with the red. Oh, Quigley Poo, thank you for the super chat. You didn't get Apple Care Plus? I never buy Apple Care. Never have, and I've never needed to. I've never been in a situation where I was like, dang, if only I had an Apple Care. No, I typically I will use products if something goes wrong with them. It's usually within the first year, and that's covered under the built-in warranty. I've gotten a lot of stuff replaced or fixed for free, even without Apple Care. And I've never run into like a cataclysmic error after a year of owning the product. That's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of Apple products is they're just very reliable for me. Not always. They're not perfect, but for the most part, you know, I can buy something like the iMac Pro in 2017 and it lasts me all the way up until now. And there's nothing really inherently wrong with it. It's just there's better options now. Do you actually need the 8 terabytes? I actually need food and water. I actually don't need a MacBook Pro. I actually don't need a computer. I actually don't need a watch or a phone. You know, I could cut out everything, but it's a matter of investment in the business so that things are more. The purpose of 8 terabytes is to not have to worry about storage. I'm not entirely convinced that I won't have to worry about storage with 4 terabytes because with filming a ton of footage on the Red, like this last project we've been doing for Tailosive TV, the raw footage for that project was like over 600 gigs. This is like one skit. Not a crazy amount of footage, but it's large files, and I'm filming with ProRes all the time, and I'm wanting to have more access to B-roll, but I can't right now because my iMac Pro storage is full. So I have an external drive that I'm dumping a bunch of extra stuff off of. So it's with storage, it's not a matter of like if I will fill it up, it's when. So basically, the more storage we get, the longer I have to wait until I gotta offload it or find a place to store it. So, it's a, yeah, like Scott is saying, I hate the need argument. I'm allowed to want things. It's a luxury, yes, but there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting something. Yeah, I could technically like film and edit all of my videos on an iPhone SE if we're really talking about need. It's like, okay, you gotta make content and you gotta post videos to pay your bills and, you know, feed yourself. Okay, you can shoot 4K at 60 videos on an iPhone SE. That's $400, and you can technically run LumaFusion on an iPhone SE. It's not going to be fun. The editing process is going to be pretty slow, but you can do it. So the whole need argument doesn't hold up very well for me in the computer world. It's more of an argument in not just computers, but tech in general. Like, do I need an iPhone with this much storage, or do I need an iPhone with this much camera? It's like that the need thing will always fall apart. What doesn't fall apart is like what can you afford and what will provide you convenience. What's better, 8 terabyte internal or 2 terabytes external, all daisy chained or RAID? The thing is, we're planning on taking lots of trips and going in more and more places in the future. So a RAID is not very helpful because I already feel like I've got too much stuff in here between the futon and the lights and the boxes, and we've got old clothes we have stored in here. Like, I don't want another big computer plugged in all the time using up energy. Or I only have 2 wall outlets in this room. So everything you've seen, the lights, the cameras, the iMac, the chargers, everything is powered off of 2 110 outlets in this entire room. And hi Viper, I see you in the chat. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying your new MacBook. But yeah, I don't want to raid because it's something I can't take with me, and it's something that's gonna take up another outlet and just sit around. I don't like towers. I don't like having big bulky computers. I want to travel light. Um, let's see. What camera are you using now? It looks great. It's the Notch, of course. It's the MacBook Pro webcam with the internal microphones for those just tuning in. How much water can be bought for those 8 terabytes of storage? That's the real question. How much water? Our water bill is $20 a month. It's a lot of water, I guess. How long do you expect to keep your MacBook Pro, considering you spec'd it out to the near max? I think I'm hoping for at least 4 to 5 years, preferably 5. I'm visualizing in my head what things will change with the upgraded MacBook Pros. I don't think it's going to be upgraded annually. I don't think we're going to get a new MacBook Pro in 12 months. Like the last 16-inch MacBook Pro, they updated and then they left it alone for 2 years. In this, it's like I don't know exactly how they're going to top M1 Max very quickly. I'm sure they will top it, but I wouldn't be shocked if the MacBook Pro gets on a 2-year refresh cycle where it's like every other year they upgrade it. Maybe every 18 months if they get ambitious, but I really think it makes the most amount of sense for them to do like 1 year we refresh the MacBook Air and the Mac Mini and maybe the Touch Bar MacBook Pro if they keep that around for some reason. And then following year they upgrade the Pros, and then they go back to the entry level, and they just kind of leapfrog each other. We get the Air refresh and the Pro refresh and the Air refresh. So that means 2023 we'll get an M2 Max MacBook Pro. Oh my God, Joshua super chatted for the water bill. Wow, thanks Joshua, that's really nice of you. Yeah, welcome to Team MacBook Pro. He says, I'm loving the new MacBook. Love it. Good. Glad you're enjoying it, Viper. What's your opinion on the M2 MacBook Air leaks and renders? I'll talk about that in a video later. But basically, I don't think that the M2 Max will be substantially fast enough that I'm willing to shell out another $5,000 or $6,000 because, you know, it's kind of a weird scenario I'm in now because I kept my iMac Pro for about 4 years. Like in a couple months, it's going to hit the 4-year mark. And I bought more computer than I thought I needed. That's my typical mindset moving forward with Mac purchases because I don't want to upgrade things. I don't want to open things up and replace parts. I just want to buy one, call it good for a long time. And I got way more storage than I think I need, which I think is good. And the performance right now feels like insanely fast to the point where is the cost of another $4,000 or another $3,000 on a MacBook going to be substantially faster than already the M1 Max, which is, I feel like taking a pretty big leap. I'm going from my tech videos taking 20 minutes to export, now they're taking 8 minutes. So that's shaving off like 13 minutes of video, which adds up over time when you're doing 2 to 3 videos a day and you're doing that 5 days a week. That does add up, but I don't think there's any way I can shave off another 13 minutes of export time, which means that the M2 Max, when that comes out, is probably going to shave off 1 or 2 minutes. It'll be substantially faster, but will it be faster to warrant upgrading again? That's what I'm not so sure about. But I actually have a video planned for all the things I think they might do in the next MacBook Pro, but I don't think it's coming soon. I don't think we're going to get another one in the next year or so. Does it have center stage? Yeah, look, I can move over here and the camera perfectly tracks with me. Really effective face tracking, I know. I jump up like this, jump down like this, and if I move out of the frame and then I stick my head back in, it's caught me again. Oh, that's funny. Did it unblur when it realized I wasn't there? Or did it? I can't tell. Anyway. No, it does not have center stage. Anyone else having problem with AirPods just randomly dropping connection? I was the other day. Normally I don't have that problem, but it was happening to me the other day. I thought the M2 was more about single core performance improvement. Yes, it is. When I was referring to M2 Max, I'm referring to MAX. See, this naming is already confusing people. M2 M2 Max is going to be the next generation of M1 Max. But first, before we get M2 Pro or M2 Max, we're going to get M2, which will go in the MacBook Air and probably the Mac Mini. Will you sell the iMac Pro? Is it going to be your last iMac for a while? This is very likely to be my last Mac for a while. Same with the iMac Pro. I don't... Just with our lifestyle changing... Yeah, I saw the lag, sorry. It fixed itself pretty quick, but... Apple needs to push the boat out with gaming and developers for the M1 series. Apple could take over the gaming market if they play this right. I just don't think they see much of a point. Because there's really only so much Apple can do. I mean, if you talk about, like, just Apple pay a bunch of developers. Just, like, start giving a bunch of money to game devs in hope that they optimize your games for the Mac. They're kind of already doing that with arcade. But all of the arcade developers are optimizing their games for iPhones and iPads. And they're like, also put the game on the Mac. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll throw it on the Mac, I guess. But it's very much an afterthought. And the reason there's not much incentive for Apple to take over the gaming market is that the gaming, where the gamers are not on Mac. There's not a large number, in my opinion. I know they're there. There's some people out there. Don't tell me. I'm not trying to say everyone who buys a Mac doesn't play games. I'm saying I know you're there. There are some people that buy Macs that also like to play games. But the battle of getting gaming has never been about hardware performance, and it's always been about exclusives and contracts, which are all pretty much tied up in the individual gaming studios. Like Microsoft owns Xbox owns Halo and Forza, and Sony owns PlayStation. PlayStation's got Spider-Man and The Last of Us and all the exclusives that you guys know about. And Nintendo... This is the example I always bring it up. Like, the Switch hardware is kind of crap. I'm not saying, like, it works. Like, yeah, you can use the Joy-Cons, but the CPU and the GPU on the Switch are, like, worse than most iPhones. They're not very good. The resolution isn't very high. It drops frames when playing its own game. And it's not a very high FPS for a lot of the most popular titles, but... My point is, people don't care. Like, people don't care about the GPU being amazing or the CPU being great. What matters is, does it play the games they like and care about? And that's why the Switch sells well, is because it has Breath of the Wild, is because it has Mario Odyssey. It's like all about the titles. It has, being gaming hardware has everything to do about what games are available on that platform. And it has really nothing to do with the GPU or the CPU. Because you can make really quality, fun games that don't run at a very high resolution, at a high frame rate. But Apple has made far more money in the mobile gaming sector. And the mobile gaming sector, like all the money made off of games, off of iPhones and iPads, they make far more money than that than the PC gaming community. No joke. Like, a lot of people I don't think understand that. There's a really great video by Polymatter called Apple is a Gaming Company. Like, people just think that Apple's not good at gaming, but the truth is they make far more money than all these AAA game companies because of the App Store and how much money is generated off of mobile. So any potential gaming revenue they could make off of the Mac is going to be insignificant because most people buying Macs don't play games. There are some, but most of them would rather have a console, or the chance of their favorite game that they love on the PlayStation or Xbox coming to the Mac is basically impossible. Wonder what Master Chief would look like today if Apple didn't drop Bungie. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Master Chief on Apple Silicon. That's similar to the Xbox One S that I have. I only have it to play Halo and Forza through Game Pass. That's what I'm telling you. Xbox One S is not that impressive of a GPU and CPU, but it's got the games you want. Apple would rather sell you Doodle Jump and Angry Birds. Yeah, that's more profitable. As on a technical level, I get that it's not as impressive. Like, a ton of people are like, yeah, but those aren't real games. Real games are Call of Duty, and real games are Fortnite or Apex Legends. Those are actual PC games. It's like, yeah, that's all great, but they don't make as much as mobile. So it's kind of, yeah, it's like also McDonald's is a real estate company, right? They own a ton of real estate and property, but they also happen to sell burgers. That's kind of an afterthought. with game streaming, so you can play in any device now. That's true. So the purpose of, I think people are getting unnecessarily excited about the intense GPU and CPUs on Apple Silicon and thinking, oh, this makes it a gaming machine now. It's like, no, they could have been gaming machines before. Granted, they wouldn't have been the best at gaming, but you could have optimized games for Metal, even on the Intel and AMD Macs, and it would have worked. You could have done it if they had the titles, but they didn't have the titles. That's why Call of Duty and Apex are coming to mobile. Yeah, but they're not, that's not what PC people are talking about when they say Macs can't game. They're not talking about porting the mobile version over to the Mac. I trust me, Rohan, I'm not ignoring your comments. There's just over 300 people watching. I'm not going to be able to read each one. Apple can never really compete in the gaming space so long as they don't make affordable modular computers gamers can swap components in and out of. Yeah, and that's never going to happen. But it depends on your definition of gaming space, because if you're just talking about revenue generated from gaming, then Apple is a huge player. Probably one of the biggest because of how much revenue is generated from mobile games. It's huge. It's billions and billions of dollars. I'm a Mac user and I don't give a rat's about gaming. I think you're most people, Scott. When most people are like, I want to play a bunch of games on my computer, they don't run out and buy the latest Mac. That's just not their mindset. I got my MacBook for college. It is mostly for productivity and engineering work, not gaming. That's something I wanted to bring up. I don't think there was enough attention being brought to that. Did you guys notice during all of the CPU and GPU bragging Apple gave for the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, they were bragging about how great the GPU is and how it is close to the performance of a RTX 3080. They're like, man, everything is so powerful. It's so efficient. It runs on a fraction of the power. Not once during the entire keynote did they say, this MacBook is going to be good for gaming. You can go back and watch it. Trust me, I checked. They never once advertised this chip as, now you can play games way better. The entire event was all about how this is better at Final Cut, this is better at coding, this is better at Cinema 4D, this is... They showcase designing games. I'll bring that up. Like, they showcased how much easier the M1 Max will make designing characters and NPCs and simulations for Adobe apps and photo editing and creating games. They showcased. Never once did they brag about how it's better at playing games. Never came up. Because, yeah, Joshua, exactly. That's not their target market. Ironically, they showcased people playing games on the 24-inch iMac, though, with the M1 and the chin. But there's like the guy with a controller playing with his iMac. But yeah, I wish that would have been more highlighted. Maybe I didn't bring it up enough in my videos, but I wanted to highlight that. Basically, like, look, Apple is openly showing this new capability is good for creating things, not consuming things. Mini LED is a tool. Its extreme dynamic range is helpful for, editing HDR content and sure, it's technically good at watching movies and shows, but that wasn't really what they advertised it for. It's not going to be even close to RTX 3080, even if it is native workflows for deep learning is much easier on NVIDIA GPUs. The charts were showing it coming close. I didn't say it would be exactly, but they compared it directly to another PC laptop with an RTX 3080 and compared it to when the GPU is at its full capacity, when the laptop is plugged in versus when it's unplugged, and how much performance drops. How will M1 Pro and Max improve my email, surfing, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, messages, notes, and GIFs and dank memes? Yeah, I know, right? We need better memes on my MacBook. Z2 is not enough. What's your stance in iCloud gaming? Currently, it's only accessible through Safari because Apple has rejected native apps for Xbox Cloud and Stadia just because they don't want competition. I don't think it's not necessarily... Stadia and Xbox Cloud are not, in my opinion, direct competition with Arcade. I think there's more reasons for them not to allow that because the way they wanted it to work was that there would basically be an alternative app store, that you would download an app, you would open the app, and then you have a separate library of games that don't have to abide by App Store policies and the App Store fees. I think people were too quick to write it off as, oh, Apple doesn't want anything competing with arcade. It's not really an arcade competitor. Arcade is a bunch of some exclusive titles and some nostalgic apps, whereas Xbox Game Pass is a completely different catalog of games that can coexist. It's not like Halo is competing with Fruit Ninja. They're totally they're totally different titles. So I don't see, just because they involve gaming and there's a monthly subscription, I don't see them as competitors. For the same reason I don't really see Netflix and Apple TV Plus as competitors. Like, they're offering totally different titles and people can easily get both. So I think it has more to do with it becoming a gateway drug for more and more companies, because Apple can't grant special permissions just to Microsoft. If they say Microsoft can launch their cloud gaming app where you can open it up and there's a whole nother library of apps and they don't have to pay for they don't get approved through the App Store, then that means any company can now create an alternative app library that anyone can download, and Apple doesn't want malware and more scam apps getting on the store. So basically there's App Store policies that prevent that type of app from working. So the workaround is to do it through Safari. But Mr. Sweeney can broker a deal with Apple and bring PC games by updating Unreal and other tools, maybe. I wouldn't trust Mr. Sweeney to try to make a deal with Apple. He just seems angry all the time. It might be just that, the separate App Store, just like the Epic Game Store. Yeah, currently Apple's not okay with that, and the judge ruled in favor that that's fine. The only thing the judge did not rule in Apple's favor was that you couldn't redirect people to alternative payment systems. So Apple does have to allow that now, but that wouldn't change the cloud gaming thing. Would you rather choose 64 gigs of RAM or 2 terabyte SSD? 2 terabytes not enough anymore, so I guess I would rather take 2 terabytes if those are the only two. RAM is not that useful for me. I've been doing a crap ton of stuff on my MacBook with 32 gigs of RAM, and it's not been an issue. I kind of think RAM is overrated. Unless you're doing very specific tasks like 3D modeling and After Effects and something that's very RAM intensive, I don't think people need as much RAM as they think they do. Let's see. Johnny Ives in the chat. Whoa! I feel like the argument that Macs can't game is just the one thing that still allows Apple haters to crap talk the Mac. Oh, wow, Macs are so good, but it can't game! It's the one thing that's not in Apple's control, too. It's kind of completely up to developers to optimize for, and because there's not many gamers there, I don't care. It's such a dead argument at this point. Like, I kind of don't care, to be honest with you. Because I don't play that many games in the first place, and also because the M1 Max is so fast and so impressive, and I love how quick it can export things, and I love the webcam quality, and I love the internal microphones here. Like, everything about this Mac is great. Like, the gaming performance I could not care less. So 64 gigs of unified RAM allows GPU to use up to 64 gigs. Really good. That's good if you have a task that plans on taking advantage of 64 gigs. I do not. I was using Chrome with multiple tabs, Safari, Twitter, Discord, Messages, Final Cut, OBS, all at the same time. I've never had a RAM pop up. It's never been an issue. I haven't done a Blackmagic speed test. I guess I should do that. Do you think Apple will release a 16-inch M1 MacBook? I don't need the power of the M1 Pro or Max, but I need a bigger screen on my laptop, but still thankful for my 2013 full-spec MacBook does the trick. I did a whole live stream about that. I think it would be a great idea. I don't know what the component costs are. It's possible that perhaps the larger display is really, really expensive, so it doesn't really make much sense for Apple to try to make a cheaper 16-inch laptop, because if they did, it would still end up costing like $2,000. I don't know. That might be the case. But if it's not, I think it would be a great idea, because I know a ton of people, including my wife, that want bigger laptops. They don't like the 13-inch screen size, and they would basically take the largest screen possible, but they're using it for basic stuff. They're using it for web browsing, for iMessage, for YouTube, for class, and I know a ton of people that are like, I just want a big laptop, but I don't need M1 Pro, I don't need M1 Max. So if it was possible for them to do a 15-inch MacBook Air with no fans but big battery, that's another big advantage. Would be 100 watt hour battery, so you can still take it on flights, but there's no fans, so it can still be much, much thinner. You don't need all the Pro I/O. You don't need SD card and HDMI and all these ports. You can just Keep it thin. No thermals on the inside, no fans or ventilation or anything because it's an ARM architecture. It can just use the M1 chip, and it's just big and it's got a big battery. Like I think a ton of people would buy that for like 1,500 or so. But I don't know if that's feasible. It's possible that it would be too expensive. Can we talk about how gorgeous the etched MacBook Pro on the bottom is? Yes, it is. I would love to show you that, but I guess that's impossible. Plus, with the SSD, faster SSD swapping can be more useful. RAM is overrated unless you're MKBHD. I don't even think MKBHD needs that much RAM because he's not doing that much 3D modeling software. How long am I planning on streaming today? The usual, like 90 minutes. I'll probably wrap up in 15 minutes or so. I just hope they add a black 16-inch to the lineup, not space gray, just black. Yeah, I would have loved to see that. I probably would have bought a matte black one if they had it. I'm not in love with the colors, but they're pretty good. Space gray's fine. It's not that big a deal. Not gonna lie, Joe, I actually prefer the video quality of this setup. Webcam and mic look and sound amazing. I'm very impressed with the microphones. The webcam is decent. Probably the only thing this webcam gets better than the iMac Pro is the aperture not flickering all the time. Do you guys remember that? Like, tell me if I'm crazy, but I recall like either 5 to 10 people always complaining that my webcam kept going. It would go dark to bright, like you can see the aperture adjusting, and I don't see that happening at all. Like if I turn off a light maybe, but it's like instantaneous. I can't even see the aperture adjusting. It's awesome. MKBHD would probably buy the fully maxed out Mac Pro. I think he didn't. He definitely bought a heavy one though. I believe the one he bought was like $30,000 or something. But the microphones are what impressed me a lot. The webcam's like decent, you know, it's still a webcam. It's not better than an iPhone camera or anything like that, but I remember flickering webcam. It was also the same with the iPhone video. Oh, really? I don't remember that. A jet black MacBook Pro, I'm drooling. Scott, that would get so scratched. But in the marketing images, yes, it would look amazing. I agree. I kind of dug jet black. I kind of wish that would have come back. But it wasn't like as fingerprinty as glass. You know what I mean? Warren says, it seems like now that the consumer Macs have gotten so capable, they're making true pro MacBook Pros. In 2014, I had to buy a 15-inch MacBook Pro to just have high enough specs to future-proof it a bit. Yeah, I feel like M1 covers more of the lineup now. Like, I'm not even that annoyed that the MacBook Pros got more expensive because the people who were buying the $1,800 or $1,500 MacBook Pros can now buy an M1 MacBook Air, and the performance is plenty. Like, it covers it. So the only downside, I guess, is the I/O. You know, you only got 2 USB-C ports. But did the MacBook purchase give you 3 months of Apple TV Plus? And if so, are you going to watch Ted Lasso? I don't think you get more free TV Plus after you use up your free trial. I haven't seen a pop-up for it anywhere. I was offered Apple Fitness Plus free for 3 months, didn't use it, and it was like, you have 1 week to redeem this offer, and I waited for the whole week to end, and it expired. But now that I've bought a new MacBook, it's shown up again. Now it's like Apple Fitness Plus free for 3 months. Actually, that came with the watch. Never mind, not the MacBook. I'm still streaming through OBS because I wanted to stream overlays when people super chat and that kind of thing. But yeah, this is the onboard microphone, built-in webcam, and I'm very impressed. Randy, I hate to break it to you here, but I think I want to record the podcast with the MacBook mic. I think it's that good. What would you discuss with MKBHD? Should you get in another collab with him? It's been a few years. No, we collabed like a few months ago. Wasn't it in like July? It wasn't that long ago, but go watch that, I guess, if you haven't seen it. It's on the Tailosive podcast channel. Just sort by most popular. It's our most viewed video. Is the AirPods 3rd gen worth it? I'm using wired AirPods right now. If you care a lot about audio quality, they sound a bit more balanced than AirPods 2, but if your priority is bass, then I would say just get AirPods 2. So we think that Schiller's the one that killed the ports? Probably, yeah. Schiller left and then the ports came back. I don't know. I won't like a matte black MacBook Pro until I see one. Doesn't seem like the prettiest thing in the world, but I guess Apple knows how to make everything premium and pretty. They do. Their marketing is second to none. We think that. Oh, sorry, I just read that. Nick did not like that idea when I suggested it last night. We should cancel him. Yeah, we'll keep canceling Nick. Um, Fitness Plus is fun. I just don't care. We watch workout videos, but they're on YouTube. It's not. I don't want to pay for it. Even if it was free, it's like, okay, now I gotta bring it up on my phone and cast it to my TV. I'd rather just pull up YouTube on my TV. It's faster. Let me see if I've caught up here. I wonder who would use the three 6K screens simultaneously with their MacBook Pro. Somebody's gonna do it. I think Everyday Astronaut has multiple Pro Display XDRs. Marquez has 2. But yeah, good question. Who's gonna use 3? And the HDMI port for like a 4K TV. What about the AirPods 3 shape? Are they worth it? Are they worth it for the shape? No, the design looks great. I think aesthetically they look much better than AirPods 2. But the audio performance of them is, I think, up for debate. Kind of depends on what you're into. If you're going for more clarity with your mids and highs, AirPods 3 sound better, but if you're going for heavier bass, I would kind of still lean towards AirPods 2. What is your favorite feature of the new MacBooks? Ooh, that's hard to say, because when I first got it, it was hands down 120 hertz. I was just not used to having such a buttery smooth refresh rate on a Mac before. So that was really, really refreshing. But now I've started editing my videos on it, and it exceeded my expectations. I knew it would be faster, but I wasn't expecting it to be like 2.5 times faster than my iMac Pro or more. So I love the performance. I love the display. I love how thin the bezels are. And now live streaming, I love how good the microphone quality is. And I love that I can apply portrait mode while live streaming. This is what it looks like with portrait mode off, by the way. So now you know. But yeah, it's hard to pick one. I don't know. The performance is pretty dang helpful. I got to admit, when I'm done editing a video and I just hit export and then it was like, whoop, 1 minute done. I was like, dang, there's like a whole stage of this video editing process that's been like completely gotten rid of now. Black background completely hides the notch. You don't even need a black background. You just need a darker one. If you just have like a darkish wallpaper, the menu bar turns black. And I don't notice the notch at all. It's not intruded on anything. I've never had the menu bar go out past the notch. I think people were getting really, really clickbaity about the notch all of a sudden. I don't know. I saw some people that were just like rushing to find every third-party application that clearly has not been optimized for the notch yet. And then they install the third-party application that hasn't been optimized. And of course the menu items go into the notch. But it's not a first-party app. It's a third-party app. And the MacBook Pros literally came out like 2 days ago. We're 2 days in and people are like, look, this app isn't optimized. Oh my God, look how terrible it is. How could Apple do this? It's like, dude, relax. It just came out. I'm sure that third party will update their software eventually to accommodate for the notch. It's like not that big a deal. If the webcam is as good, likely better than the one on the M1 iMac, YouTube's compression must be terrible. There's always a certain level of compression whenever you live stream something. Even if you have a high bit rate. Just the process of recording and uploading and compressing all at once, there's always going to be a decrease in quality. But you know what? That's to be expected when you FaceTime anyway. Like, you're going to always have compression, but it's a webcam. It's meant for the web. You're not recording that much with webcams. Maybe I am because of podcasts, but people do anything to find something to hate on. Yeah, it felt like there were way too many people quick to act like this was a big cataclysmic failure, when in reality I was like, it's really not that bad. Are you showing or hiding the notch currently? My menu bar goes all the way to the edge, but I just have a darkish wallpaper. I prefer that, to be honest. On my iMac Pro, which didn't have a notch, I use one of the built-in wallpapers. How do I show it to you? Maybe if I... No, I guess I need to... I haven't set up OBS with all my settings from the iMac Pro yet, but... is OBS on Rosetta 2? I thought they optimized it. I can't remember. But it's running fine. I cannot hear the fans. Like... Maybe the fans are running very, very quietly, but can you guys hear them through the microphones? Like, they sound dead silent to me. Um, the webcam is really good, honestly. Yeah, it's basically fixed my number one complaint with the iMac Pro webcam, which is that the aperture shifted too much depending on where I was sitting. I would just adjust my face and you would see the light flickering, and I feel like they got rid of that. Do you think the MacBook 16-inch is basic is a good deal for someone who doesn't work with video editing? It's more than... I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good deal because it's still $2,500, but if you're not doing any power intensive tasks, then oh yeah, it's plenty. Even the... I wish they had the 8-core M1 Pro option so you could get it cheaper. People are saying no fan noise. Can you do it with your phone and AirPlay to it? Do it with my phone? I'm not sure what you mean. Basically, my desktop is one of the built-in wallpapers that is like a nighttime shot of a rocky landscape. So it's black, but it's not like... I'm not suggesting to get rid of the notch. Everyone needs to pick like a just pure black desktop wallpaper. Like you can just choose a dark-ish wallpaper. Like the iMac Pro wallpaper, the first one it had when it came out, the one that was in all the marketing with the blue dust, you wouldn't see the notch in that. I use the app that puts a black bar at the top of your wallpaper. I love seeing the menu bar up there and the notch just disappears. People made a huge deal over nothing. When I first showed it to my friend Ross, he came over yesterday, and I changed the wallpaper to be the default Monterey. So the notch was embraced and very visible, and he did not notice it for like the first 5-10 minutes. He was just using it, and well, he wasn't using it, but he was looking at it, and I was showing him the red footage and demoing all that, and he was like, "Oh, is there a notch up there?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's the camera cutout." And he was like, "Oh." He did. It was not like a, oh my god. I think that's a tech community thing. I showed it to my wife too when the MacBook Pro was unveiled. I was like, "Honey, look, there it is," and she was like, "Yeah, it looks great." And I was like, "It has a notch," and she was like, "Okay, whatever." Like, it's such a tech community thing. I think that YouTubers and journalists have turned the notch into such a big deal. Average consumers literally do not care. And for pros, it's so easy to get rid of because whenever you full screen an application, it goes away anyway. So I really don't see it as an intrusion. I see it as a display extension. If you want the top bezel to be thicker so that there's no notch, then you can make it that way permanently if you feel like it. Let's see. What about a notch on the watch? That's pretty pointless. Those wallpapers look so fake. Fake? I think they're just like high exposure, high dynamic range. But do you think they're leaving extra space in the notch for Face ID? That could be it. I also think it's possible that the Face ID sensors are too bulky to fit into the display lid. But I think it makes a ton of sense that Apple would bring a notch to the MacBook, even if it didn't necessarily need one to be as thick. Because I do agree, like, I can't see it right now because it's blacked out. But when I embrace the notch, I do agree, like, it feels a tad wider than it needs to be. Not that that's a deal breaker. It's really a major issue because right now none of my applications have ever come close to where the notch is. But it's like you've got a camera and an indicator light. Why does it need to be this wide? It would make far more sense for them to accommodate a fairly large notch and then just add Face ID to it in a future upgrade versus giving it a small notch and then adding Face ID later and increasing the size of the notch. It's like rather get everybody accommodated and accustomed to the current size. That way we don't have to up it later. My wife still uses a 2008 MacBook Pro. Not regularly. It's basically a dedicated DVD player. Like, we haven't used it in like 6 months. It's just sitting under our bed. She mostly uses a 2017 iPad Pro for all of her YouTube and social media. And her iPhone. She uses that more than anything. Her iPhone SE. Webcam plus ambient light sensor. Yeah, it doesn't need to be that big. The wide notch is Apple trying not to be teardrop cutout. I don't think it would have made a big difference. A notch is still a notch. It's still a little bit of a cutout that you just gotta work around in software, and I feel like the Mac is heads over heels easier to optimize for a notch for because of the menu bar and because you only use it in one orientation. Like, the iPhone notch is so much harder to work around because there's so many things you do in landscape. So you gotta have embrace certain videos, and they adopt the notch, and you gotta stuff all of these icons into these tiny ears. Like on the 12 mini, there's so little space between the notch and the bezel, but they had to shrink down the text to fit Wi-Fi and battery and cellular up there. But with the MacBook, they barely had to do anything. Which device do you think is next in line for a really important update? An important update? Maybe MacBook Air. I feel like there's a lot of speculation going on about what that one's going to be like, because they're going to actually change the chassis, go away from the wedge design, which it's always been for a long time. So, I don't know. MacBook Air is high on my list. Maybe iMac, actually. The 27-inch iMac is heavily due for a refresh, and it's rumored to get a 120 hertz mini LED display, which is awesome. It'll probably still have a chin though, which I'm not excited for. It'll be interesting if they bring back I/O though. Like if they bring back, like they should, right? If they're bringing back SD cards and HDMI on the MacBook, maybe not HDMI because it's an all-in-one monitor, but at least the SD card slot. Mac Mini. People are all saying Mac Mini next. I'm just not convinced they're gonna put an M1 Pro in the Mac Mini. Like I think they might have decided that Mac Mini with M1 Pro would eat into iMac sales too much, so they're just going to wait until Mac Pro. Mac Pro could be due for a very, very important refresh. Mac Mini and Air in spring, Mac Pro and iMac maybe in WWDC. Yeah, that's possible. They've done... the last Mac Pro and iMac Pro were unveiled at WWDC. Let's see. Do you think the 13-inch MacBook Pro will become the standard MacBook to fill the gap? I think Apple tried having a standard MacBook, and that name just didn't sit right with people. It didn't work. They've discovered that if you just slap the word Pro on something, more people want to buy it because they don't look into the comparisons and they don't realize that the M1 MacBook Pro is really not much faster than an M1 MacBook Air. They just hear the word Pro and they don't want the stigma of buying a MacBook Air because that implies that it's a cheaper, lighter, less powerful notebook. Even though with Apple Silicon, I would say that's changed. I still think personally M1 MacBook Pro is incredibly pointless unless you need the touch bar. If you're just a diehard, I really, really love the touch bar, I really, really need the touch bar, that's, I guess, the only reason I would say, basically, if you're Nick and Sweeney, that's who it's for. But for everybody else, if you don't really care much about the touch bar, always go with M1 MacBook Air. It's not that much slower. Even with extended tasks, I don't see the fan on the M1 making that big a difference, to be honest. Apple Silicon runs so efficiently and so quietly that there's giving it a cooling system like that. I've never heard the fans kick on my current MacBook Pro, and I was doing a crap ton of stuff with it yesterday, exporting after exporting after exporting, and I've been live streaming now for 90 minutes and I can't hear the fans. So if they just call it MacBook, it doesn't really simplify much. It may look simple in marketing, but then we have to refer to it as the regular MacBook or the middle tier MacBook. So I don't know why it exists. I don't think we need a middle tier. I think it's fine if we just had a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro, but I would appreciate more diversification on the MacBook Air. Like I think we need two sizes. I think it would, with this redesign coming with the M2 chip with the thinner bezels and the more compact, thinner design, like I would rather see a 13-inch MacBook Air and a 15-inch MacBook Air that costs a few $100s more, and then just go straight to MacBook Pro if the Air doesn't cut it for you. I have a slight feeling that the 12-inch MacBook might make a comeback with M2. It's just sitting there. They just need to figure out the keyboard situation. Well, they discontinued it, so it's not just sitting there, but I think that the 12-inch MacBook design scheme will be very similar to the MacBook Air. Basically, the next generation M2 MacBook Air will be smaller. Raul, thank you for the super chat. Do you think 16 gigs of RAM is enough for a software developer using Xcode? I'm thinking about 32 gigs for long run, but it's an extra 400. What do you think? I don't have as much experience with writing code. So the chat, I encourage you guys to weigh in if you know if it makes a big difference. But the way I see it is it's all gonna come down. If it's a matter of 32 would be better, but 16 is enough. It's just gonna come down to your financial situation. Do you see yourself owning this MacBook for a very, very long time? If so, spend the extra 400. Or if you're in a financial situation where it's tight and you don't want to spend that much more, okay, 16 will probably be good. Mark Tomlin says, I have M1 Mac Mini with 16 gigs and it's plenty. It is unified RAM, so it should be looked at as a bit different from traditional RAM. So I'm going to guess 16 gigs is fine. Save yourself the money. But yeah, we did pretty good for the live stream. I got to sign off here, guys, but this was a success. Oh, just as I say that, Dishy starts lagging. Starlink, come on, stabilize. There you go. Well, I've upped the bit rate, and we've only dropped 0.8% of frames, which is pretty good. So I'm just going to keep upping the bit rate until Starlink somewhat stabilizes. But I appreciate all the super chats and our new members for joining today. Seriously, that helps a lot, and I'm very, very grateful for you guys. And oh, okay, compiling is more CPU intensive, not RAM intensive, unless it's a huge project. There you go. Get 16 gigs of RAM, Raul. Hopefully that save you some money. But I'm sorry I couldn't get to all your messages, but we'll be doing more live streams in the future. Thanks all. See you tomorrow, Randy. Have a great day. More videos to come shortly. Stay tuned. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, before I sign off. We're at 47% battery. So we streamed for over 90 minutes. When I went live, I was at 92%. We still got half a charge to go. That's pretty impressive. In the past, whenever I would live stream off a MacBook, it would like die within 30 minutes or so. That's pretty insane. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good one.